Guten Morgen alle. Heute ist der 7. November 2019. Today we're going to talk about the dative case in German. And so far we've talked about the nominative, der Nominativ, accusative. And today we're going to talk about der Dativ. There are 4 cases in German. The last one is the genitive, and we'll eventually get to that, but we are not going to get to that today. So let's just do a little bit of review before we get into anything. The first thing I want to talk about is what is a case. Remember, a case shows the grammatical function of a noun. What German cases do you already know, and what are they used for? Well, the nominative case, you guys know, the nominative case is used for the subject of the sentence, or you can say the subject of the sentence is in the nominative case. So, for example, if you had the sentence, das Mädchen geht ins Haus, das Mädchen is the subject of the sentence, and my definite article das is going to reflect the gender of that noun, which is neuter. Okay, so that would be the subject, and it would be in the nominative case. The nominative case is also used with the verb sein, to be. If you had the example, dieser Mann ist mein Lehrer, this man is my teacher, some people might get confused and say that this man is the subject and my teacher is the direct object. However, that is incorrect because the man and the teacher are the same person. Plus, you're using the verb sein, so therefore there is no direct object. Anytime you use the verb sein, it never takes a direct object. So now we have the accusative case. And what is the accusative case used for? Well, the accusative case is used for the direct object of the sentence, okay? So, for example, if you had a sentence such as, Ich kaufe ein Buch, the subject would be ich, the verb would be kaufe, ein Buch would be your direct object because the book is the thing being bought by the subject. Of course, ein is not going to change because it is it is a neuter noun. It's das Buch. So therefore, the corresponding indefinite article would be ein. And then there are some prepositions that we learned that are followed by the accusative case. Remember, we had the acronym Baby Oscar gets up for Deutsch. Okay, and one of those is für. So if I said Ich kaufe es für meinen Freund, Freund is masculine noun. Therefore, für is also an accusative preposition. So therefore, the ending on the end of meinen is going to be an en. It would not be mine. Okay? So then we had our articles, and I had you guys complete this chart with the articles. For right now, we're going to keep the dative row empty. So for the masculine nominative, we had der. For the indefinite article, we had ein. For the neuter, we had das. For the indefinite, we had ein. For the feminine, we had die. And then for the indefinite, we had eine. For the plural, we had die. And then for the indefinite article, remember there was no ein or eine. Okay, or einen. However, you could use keine, like if you were saying keine Bücher or keine Männer or keine Frauen, that would work for plural as well. For the accusative case, you could have den. Remember the rule, der goes to den, die and das stay the same. And then the same way for the indefinite article, if der goes to den, ein is going to go to einen. Then we had the neuter, which was das, ein. The feminine was die, and then the indefinite article was eine. Same way with the plural and keine. As for now, like I said, we will keep the dative row empty. Okay, remember the only one that we had to worry about changing for the accusative case was the masculine, right? Okay, so now we're going to get into direct objects. What is a direct object? Okay, the main use of the accusative case is for direct objects. The direct object receives the action of the verb. The subject is doing the action to the direct object. Zum Beispiel, ich werfe den Ball. Well, the ball is the thing that's being thrown by the subject. Therefore, it's going to be the direct object. Ball is der Ball. It's a masculine noun. Therefore, der is going to go to den. Okay, so that's why that changes. If you have the sentence, es gibt das Geschenk, there is a present. Remember that phrase, es gibt, there is or there are. Das Geschenk is, es gibt is always going to be followed by a direct object. So therefore, das Geschenk is going to be in the accusative case, okay? So now we're going to get into the dative case with indirect objects. And you can ask yourself, what is an indirect object? The indirect object in some way benefits from the action of the verb. It is indirectly affected, but you don't do the action to the object, but for them. It is usually used with the words to or for in English. So think about it this way. In English, when we have an indirect object, it's usually followed with the or preceded with the words to or for whom. Okay? All right, so here are some examples. Beispiele. Let's look at some examples of indirect objects. The first sentences will have only direct objects. The second will have both. So if you say, ich werfe den Ball, that's in the accusative. Then if you have the same sentence, but you add dem Mädchen den Ball, you're saying, I'm throwing the ball to the girl. Now notice that we haven't gotten into the articles yet, but dame is the article for dem Mädchen in the dative case, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But the ball is being thrown to the girl. Okay, if you had es gibt das Geschenk, then you said es gibt der Schwester das Geschenk, or excuse me, gibt der Schwester das Geschenk. He's giving the present to the sister. The sister is the person to whom the present is being given. Therefore, the article changes. The sister is the indirect object. So in each of the second sentences, we not only have a direct object, but we also have an indirect object. Notice that all sentences contain an indirect object must also have a direct object, okay? So be careful. If you say, ich werfe dem Mädchen den Ball, that has both a direct object and an indirect object. If you say, gibt der Schwester das Geschenk, same thing. Both have a direct object and an indirect object. Wir erzählen den Kindern eine Geschichte. We tell or we tell the children a story. Both have a direct object and an indirect object. Du schickst deine Oma einen Brief. You send your grandmother a letter. Again, both have a direct object and an indirect object. Now we get to the articles. Here comes the chart again. So here's the chart that you guys have been familiar with so far, but here's how it changes in the dative case. For the masculine, we have dame. For the definite, we have dame. For the indefinite, we have einem. For the neuter, we have dame. And for the indefinite, we have einem. For the feminine, we have der. And for the feminine definite, we have der. For the indefinite, we have einer. And then for the plural, we have den. And I also like to add, you should also think of this as den plus n, because you can also add an n onto the end of the noun if it is possible. If the noun does not already end in n, then go ahead and add an n. If it does end in n, don't go ahead and add another n. And then again, for keinen, we can also put the en on the end of keinen as well, okay? So this is what the completed chart is going to look like now. So some verbs actually always take the dative case. And here are some verbs that commonly have indirect objects. The first one, let me scroll down just a little bit so you guys can see here. Geben, kaufen, sagen, schreiben, singen, bringen, holen, and werfen. These verbs are some of the common verbs that will always take an indirect object. Okay, if you guys have any questions about these, you can ask me about these verbs, but make sure you remember they will always take an indirect object. And here are some more. Erzählen, erklären, verkaufen is to sell, zeigen to show, schicken to send, schenken to send, and leihen to lend. Okay? So those are some more that always take an indirect object. Okay, so that is the end for the first part of the video series. If you have any questions, please call, text, or email me. Das ist alles für heute und viel Spaß beim Deutschlernen. Danke.